Hello, welcome to Tuesday night's Hotline Live with Record Sport, brought to you by NordVPN. Keith, it's the VPN that male VPNs want to be and female VPNs want to be with. How's it
Is
going?
it? Well,
Sorry,
you were making that up. Henrik, our Swedish producer, has been having heart attacks in the back of the world. We're having technical issues here, but we're here.
aye, we're here. We got there in the end.
Yeah, just
And,
about.
and also, for
And
anyone
by the
watching,
way,
go on.
well, we've got some stuff, haven't we?
Oh, I've got
The
some
good
stuff.
news is, look, I was going to say the good news is you've caught up with Chris Sutton earlier on today. I've caught up with Ryan Stevenson earlier today, and between them both and some of the things they've had to say, I think me and you can take the rest of the night off anyway, and I can go and get a cold compress for Henrik.
No, they were both in brilliant form. I caught up with Chris Sutton earlier on today for the Record Celtic podcast, and we've got a good chunk of that. It's actually his birthday today as well, and obviously, lucky him
Happy
getting to
birthday,
spend it with
Christopher.
your old dad. But you caught up with Ryan Stevenson too.
Mm.
I mean, Ryan Stevenson, he's never short of an opinion or two, is he? Doesn't he really miss his mark when he speaks these days?
Well, you hear it in a wee second, but I mean, he's of the opinion that Scottish football was so sick to the stomach about what it had to see at the weekend that he believes the rest of the fans from clubs all over the country, including Hibs, will now be backing Hearts to win this title. I'm not sure. I'm not sure that'll definitely unanimously be the case. But it's certainly an interesting theory. And as we said, you'll hear Ryan's thoughts for himself, but it's an interesting one. I think a lot of goodwill towards whatever goodwill there is towards Celtic and Rangers. I think a lot of it would have evaporated at the weekend, and understandably so. But Hearts have still got to go and take care of their own business. They've got a difficult trip to Rugby Park on the synthetic pitch on Saturday evening. So look, there's still all to play for there. Interesting though that guys like Chris Sutton and Ryan are prepared to come out and have their say. What I find astonishing is, Daniel, here we are Tuesday night after what went on Sunday, and we're still waiting for a cheap out of either of these two clubs, whether it be an apology, whether it be to reprimand their own supporters for their behaviour. Nothing. I find that quite incredible,
Well,
given.
I hadn't made it out of Ibrox on Sunday after the game, and the SFA had already put out a statement. It's
Yeah, yeah,
remarkable. I
but
wouldn't expect it that quickly, but I just mean, aye, like you say, we're 48 hours
yeah,
on.
but even the SFA, they come out, they kind of jumped up from under the desk, threw out a quick statement, and then went straight back under the desk again, didn't they?
Aye.
And we're left here, and this has been going all around the world, and people having their say. I think it's a little bit embarrassing that people aren't taking ownership here. But at least we've got some people who aren't afraid to have an opinion on it on our show tonight, Dan.
Absolutely. And well, like you say, one of them is Ryan Stevenson. Already comments are coming in. If you're watching at home and you want to get involved, please do so. McKenna, who's a big Hearts man, says Stevenson is delusional if he thinks Hibs fans wants Hearts to win the league.
I must admit, my first thought was it has to be tongue in cheek, but well, you'll see it yourself.
Aye.
I genuinely don't think he is.
Well,
In
well, well,
fact, he went as far as to say if the shoe was on the other foot here, he'd be wanting Hibs to win it.
I don't know. Williams, another one saying no chance. Come on, Ryan, never. I tell you what, let's hear from the horse's mouth. Let's hear what Ryan Stevenson had to say earlier on today.
Steve, in time-honoured tradition, Hotline Live, you join us having filed your column for tomorrow's paper, which is really interesting and made me want to get you on the show to talk about it. We cut to the chase. I think you're pretty much suggesting that because of what went on at Ibrox at the weekend, even Hibs fans might be backing Hearts to win this title just to make sure it's no Rangers or Celtic, given the kind of antics that we all witnessed at the weekend.
Yeah, listen, I think first and foremost what we have to say is 99% of the fans that turned up for the game at the weekend done everything that they should do as fans of both
but it's
teams.
the minority, isn't it?
Yeah, but I just think that there's two folds to it, as I said to you earlier on. Was one, I think that even regardless of how it ended, I know in penalties people get excited. Celtic fans can't storm on the pitch to celebrate. Rangers fans then can't, and I know it would be difficult, storm the pitch to try and retaliate because the Celtic fans have came on. But thereafter, just everything that happened was just pretty incredible. And as I said to you as well, the second part of that as well is I've seen a lot of overspill from the police, the government, about just how bad the Old Firm has been for the country, for football and things like that. But I think the police have a major reasoning in this as well, just on the fact that as soon as we spoke, as soon as it went to extra time, or as soon as it was 5 minutes left in the actual game, they have to understand, Andy, as I said to you earlier, me and you could put a police hat on, and you know for a fact, if somebody scores a last if somebody scores a last minute winner in normal time, there's the opportunity for that to happen. The same in extra time, and obviously if it goes to penalties. So the police have to then be 2 or 3 walls deep along both sides of the pitch to stop that happening, which they weren't. It was insufficient, but not excusing just the full end to the game. And I do think, as I said to you, just the full fallout of it. If you're, I know how I feel, not as a Rangers or Celtic fan, is that I just hated it, mate. I hated it, and I just think that as a collective as Scottish football, it would just be such a breath of fresh air if Hearts can go on and win it, and we can kind of try and put all that damage that Sunday has clearly done for our football.
Yeah, the image of the whole thing is horrendous. But when you, I kind of assumed you were tongue in cheek, but you actually do think there will be some Hibs fans out there that will actually be half open for Hearts to actually accomplish this now.
Yeah, listen, I think if you're just a football fan in general, whether it's, as I said to you, the rivalry that Hearts and Hibs have is just as great. You know, when we play against each other, you ultimately want to win. You don't want to see them doing better than you in the season or going and winning a cup, anything like that. But there has to be a line drawn. And I think that's where the Old Firm just let everything down, was the fact that minority just let it overspill into absolute anarchy.
Yeah.
And I think that if you're an actual true football fan, whether you support Hibs, Hearts, Motherwell, whoever it may be, if you're a Hibs fan but you actually like football, the game, as I said, I just think it would be such a breath of fresh air for Scottish foot, and more so ever. Listen, the season's been absolutely amazing, but see what happened on Sunday, more so than ever.
Yeah.
Do we need them to go and win the league and just take all the shine away from Rangers and Celtic for once? Because two massive, I've spoken about it before, two massive clubs, two massive institutions, and that minority is just destroyed. It's set us back so much, mate.
It was pretty horrendous to watch, wasn't it? The wee guys with the balaclavas and all this.
I said to you, I wanted to walk away from the TV, but you still find yourself drawn to it to actually see, because you can't believe in this.
What's a car crash, isn't it?
Exactly. You're like, I cannot believe this is happening. I then said to you, but as soon as the pyrotechnics were getting flung into the crowd, straight away I just thought, could you imagine you were standing there with your kid and you're trying to shield your kid from one of them going off in their face, and they end up, imagine that. Imagine you go take your kid to an Old Firm game. I saw a Celtic fan saying that he'd taken his daughter to the game for the first ever time, and he'll never be back. And I mean, it's just horrendous, mate. It's absolutely horrendous. And I cannot understand what goes through people. Now, I'm the biggest idiot out of all of us, and I cannot understand what goes through people's heads. Well, I just cannot understand what goes through people's heads to think, I'm going to fling this into a crowd where
mate,
there's kids. These people have actually done the right thing by staying in the stand, and you're then flinging fireworks into them. I mean, it's just outrageous, mate. Absolutely outrageous.
And you actually were given the chance. You were contemplating taking your two boys to that game, am I right?
Yes. So I had the chance of tickets for me and my two sons to go, and never been to an Old Firm game before. And just for whatever reason, I just thought, you know what, it's the first time that Celtic have had the Broomland in a long time. On the edge of caution, just thinking that this could be a car crash, and evidently it's turned out to be that way. But again, go back onto it, I just think that as much as we're to blame as fans and as a culture, the police obviously have a massive part in this as well. The fact that I said to you earlier on as well, there was no segregation. You know, there's Rangers fans and Celtic fans like hyped up to the max before the game. Obviously, what had happened in the previous game, you know, the way the season's played out, it's a cup game, trying to get maybe their biggest chance of getting silverware, whatever way you look at it. It just had a car crash written all over it right for the start, and I think a lot of that again falls down to, I don't understand how the police couldn't segregate that and couldn't have enough officers round the pitch.
But it always used to be like, Ryan, I don't know how many games I've been in, they call it category or whatever, and you see them coming out 5 minutes before the final whistle, and it's all round the whole parameter of the pitch, all four sides, lock it down, make sure nobody can get on. For whatever reason, and I've seen the police talking about, you know, well, you know, we don't have the resources, or we don't have the same resources as we previously did. Well,
that's a load of crap, mate. That's just an excuse. See, do you know what the worst this is? See if they just came out and said we got it wrong, you would go at that, right? Do you know what? See, they're lying. Yeah. See, they're lying, and the shift of blame onto. Now, as I said to you, as football fans,
have to take the blame line. The supporters have to take their share, but
no,
was it 100%? No,
100%. We have to take the blame as football fans, that we shouldn't act like that. That is not the way we want to see our game in Scotland. But they also have a duty of care as well. The fact that you probably saw the videos of before the game, there's 2 and 3 coming through a turnstile at one time. So there's, and think all the things that have happened with too much crowds being in one stand and all that sort of stuff that we've had. So I mean, it was just from start to finish, it was just an absolute disaster. Yeah, for Scottish football.
It was. There's no way around about it. Now, in order for Hearts to attend to their side of this deal, and they need to get in and out of Kilmarnock on Saturday night with all 3 points, don't they? And that's often a difficult venue.
It's given me the fear a wee bit, mate, to be honest with you. I think, again, just there's been that break, which can be difficult as well as a player, because you've had time off. You sometimes subconsciously go into a bit of a groove where the training maybe slumps a little bit because there's no game at the end of the week. I'm pretty sure they would have combated that as best they possibly could. They now go into this week building towards a Kilmarnock game, but again, it's got a poor record at Rugby Park, and on the AstroTurf, obviously Neil McCann's boys will be hurting after the Falkirk result.
Yeah.
So listen, it'll be a difficult game. It's one I expect Hearts to go and just put in an away performance and win, like they have been doing. And I'm just praying for Scottish football that they can just go there, get 3 points, and just keep the momentum going now. And go into that sort of block of fixtures where they've got, I think it's Kilmarnock, Dundee, and then Motherwell, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And they can go and win their 3 games. But yeah, for me, Kilmarnock's the hardest one. It genuinely is, because of the record at Rugby Park, on the AstroTurf, the time that they've not been playing and just training, but hopefully having a couple of boys back from injury. I know Derek McInnes was saying Braga was carrying a little bit of a groin strain, so it was good to have a bit of time for him to sort of recover and rest from that. So yeah, I'm just praying that they can go on and put in a good performance and get 3 points.
I think finally, Ryan, you mentioned in your column as well, anybody, whether it's Hearts, Motherwell who go to Celtic Park this weekend, for example, anybody looking at the level of quality or the lack of quality, on Sunday's game at Ibrox, that's got to give you a shot in the arm. Must be Hearts boys looking at that going, by the way, there is nothing to stop us here.
Yeah, listen, I think that when you actually look outside, obviously everything that happened in the game, when you look at the actual quality of the game, I think that Celtic didn't have one shot on target.
No.
So, I mean, Rangers weren't great either. I would say they were better than Celtic in the game, but still not Rangers quality of what I would expect Rangers quality to be. So yeah, and again, I think the biggest, I said to you earlier on as well, one of the biggest disappointing things for the full weekend would be Motherwell losing to Dundee, because they would have felt as well watching it that it was a missed opportunity to put pressure on both of them. So they've obviously got a big game as well, but there's definitely, I think all four teams, all three teams looking at each other, if that makes sense, will fancy their chances. But I think from Hearts' point of view, they can look at Rangers and Celtic and think this really is in our hands, and they just have to keep doing what they've been doing majority of the season. And if they do that, as I said, there's 9 games left, mate. I cannot see Hearts losing 3-4 games. I just genuinely can't. So it's for me, personal opinion, it's Hearts' title to lose now, and hopefully they can just go on and keep doing what they're doing and go and win it.
Brilliant, Steve-O. Listen, mate, I'm sure we'll be back next week because this title race ain't going anyplace.
Perfect, mate.
I'll see you later, man.
That was Robert De Niro there in Cape Fear. Oh, sorry, no, it was Ryan Stevenson. He honestly, he looks so scary, Ryan. Honestly, great guy, but he scares me a wee bit.
Yeah.
We've got plenty of comments coming in, Keith.
You wouldn't want to throw a firework at him, would you?
I was going to say, if I ran on the pitch and was confronted by him, I'd be very slowly running away. Some of the comments coming in, right, first of all, on the on-field nonsense, John says there's been no major trouble at Hampden with Celtic and Rangers for decades. The game at Ibrox inadequately policed. Paul says, Ryan, regards to pyrotechnics, you're 100% right, but Rangers fans and idiots done it to be identified and banned. Brian says, don't really agree with Ryan, but yes, the Old Firm game should have walls of police at each end. Green Machine says it would be great if Celtic and Rangers come out with a joint statement. And those comments I put up before, Keith.
Yeah.
I was thinking last night, after last night's Hotline Live, about the stuff you were saying about the walls of police, and I was thinking, I've been to tons of games where 3-4 minutes to the end, all the police come out. Why wasn't it
standard practice?
So what was
standard practice?
We should.
Right, 2 things. Right, first and foremost, let's not allow ourselves to blame everything that happened, the events of Sunday afternoon, on the police. Right?
Yeah, of course.
Because in order for those events to take place, you needed 2 sets of supporters who can't stand each other and who were prepared to violate all sorts of rules and just decent decorum in general. So that let's not remove the blame from the people who were prepared to step onto the pitch and create the havoc that was then created, right? However, and it's a big but, Police Scotland and the Chief Constable was very quick to come out and say that she's been satisfied. She was satisfied with the way it was policed. She was satisfied with the numbers of police there. I saw a phrase in one of the statements come out from the Rangers supporters, and I would agree with what they said in it when they said, this is a woman who's marking her own homework here. It's clearly evident that there was a failure in the policing of this match.
Of course.
There's the pictures there are the evidence of this.
Yeah.
Now we've all seen the potential for disturbances and misbehaviour, terrible misbehaviour, and this is criminal misbehaviour. Some of what you're looking at there at these games, but the police have to know that. I fail to understand, for example, what Ryan was saying there, that outside the stadium, it wasn't even segregated the way it would normally be. And by the way, this is a police force that said, yep, you can have 7,500, then said to the Celtic fans, you need to be in the stadium for 10 a.m. I didn't see any evidence of that, by the way.
I
didn't see any evidence of that.
I've got a wee anecdote about that, Keith, just very quickly. I was there outside the stadium for 10 a.m. For Record Sport. I was doing a lot of video work, and I was there to see the Celtic fans arrive because, as you say, Martin O'Neill had said as well, they'd been asked to be there for 10. I got there for 10. There was nobody there. Fans eventually arrive at 11, and I did a Facebook Live where I walked around the stadium getting score predictions from people writing in, and I came round to the Broomloan stand, and I said to everyone watching, well, I'll not get through here, it's cordoned off. And I just said to a policeman, do you want to let us through? And he went, no bother. And just stepped aside. And, I just was really surprised that you could do that.
Well, we're hearing accounts of groups of fans confronting each other in the streets outside the stadium. This is not the way it's meant to be. We all know the potential problems that this fixture carries with it and the baggage that it carries with it. If the police are saying that they are happy for this game to go ahead and that they're in control of it, then they've got to take control of the situation. To me, it does appear as if, I don't know if it's naivety or what it is, but all the sort of protocols and policing procedures that would normally be put in place for a game with the potential sort of a tinderbox that this game creates, I think the police have got questions to answer. I really do, and I don't think it's good enough for the chief constable just to come out and say she's perfectly satisfied.
Yeah.
I'm glad that she's perfectly satisfied. What? How can you be perfectly satisfied with that?
Marking her own homework is the perfect way to sum it up.
Yeah, and by the way, even see there, we've got some pictures with the mounted police officers, guys on horseback. Where were they? See when it was on the verge of actually going a full scale riot when the Rangers supporters ran up towards the Celtic end. Where were they, guys?
Mm.
Why weren't they ordered on to exert some control to get the situation, dampened down? I think the police have got real questions to answer on it.
Yeah.
But as I said, and I must repeat, that doesn't excuse any of that. Doesn't excuse any of that behaviour. That's moronic stuff. It's criminal stuff.
Oh, aye.
But the police are meant to be there to protect the decent individuals, and there's plenty of fans in the Celtic end, and plenty of fans all around the three sides of Ibrox at the home end.
Yeah.
They didn't come down onto that pitch. But I'm damn sure a lot of them would be hoping that there was a bit of protection here to stop this from escalating into something that would have been really horrific, or could have been, had certainly the potential to become really horrific.
Yeah.
And the police simply didn't do enough to get on top of that situation, regardless of what they might think about their own duties
Aye.
or actions.
Mick Gannon, obviously star of the Hotline, he was on Scotland Tonight last night and talking about it. And it's funny, Keith, what a lot of people don't know is, see at the game, I was actually holding him back. He was trying to get right down there. He was running on the pitch and everything. I couldn't believe it.
After Chanvara scored the penalty.
I'm joking, of course. Rebel says in the comments, and one of a few people, simple, no away fans at these games ends the problem. Look,
that's. I mean, in fairness to both clubs, and even though they've acted like children themselves in some of the various guises of the board over the last wee while at both clubs, and particularly, some of the more recent Rangers boards, that it's not been a great. They've not helped in terms of trying to encourage better relations between both clubs. And I get that. Maybe some people think they'll never be, but we've been in better places than this in terms of this relationship. I do think that recently there's the change of ownership at Rangers. There is an opportunity here for people to bang heads together, figuratively speaking, and come up with better solutions. And I think we were trying really hard to move this fixture towards a place where it was going to be okay to increase the numbers, whether it was, whether that was too much too soon at the weekend. It's clearly, evidently was, but you still come back to it and say, well, what has changed?
Yeah.
Because Celtic used to get that allocation. We've never seen this before.
No. Aye.
Invading the pitch, because I think it's a cultural, a societal thing, and I keep coming back to it. We've got an element now who believe, well, I'll just do whatever the hell I want to do, whenever the hell I want to do it, and I don't care. There's no consequences for me. I'm just going to do it because that's what I feel like doing. Now, just a few years ago, when Celtic were getting the full allocation there, fans are smart enough to know, do you know what? I'll cause a real problem if I go on this pitch.
Mm-hmm.
This could become embarrassment. I could cause an issue. I don't know. Kind of general levels of behaviour seem to be all over the shop.
And if they're not,
or maybe Daniel, back then they were looking at it going, well, if I jump on here, I'm getting nicked.
Aye,
But
Aye.
if there's no police, if there's no cordons there, I don't know. I think we've got it really badly wrong on a number of fronts here,
Yeah.
and that's why there needs to be some sort of overarching kind of investigation into, and it has to be honest. And people need to put their hands up and say, we should have done this better. We should have done that better. And the fans, the morons that jumped on looking to cause trouble, they've got to put their hands up and say, do you know what? We were an embarrassment. We shouldn't have done that either.
I need to take a long look in the mirror. Aye, definitely. Well, look, see, going back to the football, there's no way in a million years I'm having Hibs fans want Hearts to win the league.
It's an interesting theory, isn't it?
I had on this show our good pal Tam McManus maybe a couple of months ago, and I said, "Well, Tam, if Hearts win the league, first non-old firm team 41 year," and he went, "Are you joking? I would rather an asteroid hit Earth than Hearts win the league." And on that's what Davy Hoop says on Ryan, saying that Kilmarnock will be Hearts' toughest test between now and the end of the season, or certainly before the split. He says playing Motherwell will be a lot harder. What do you think of that?
Well, you just need to look at the league table to understand that point, of course. But I think that Ryan Stevenson is clearly talking about Hearts historically haven't enjoyed going to Rugby Park, and haven't got a great record there. And there's all sorts of elements. You've got former Hearts guy Neil McCann managing Kilmarnock. You've got former Kilmarnock manager Derek McInnes in the away dugout this time. And the plastic pitch, people don't like it. People don't like going there because of it. It can be a great leveler. Look, if we're talking about who's going to give you a tougher game right now, Motherwell, Kilmarnock, basic logic would dictate Motherwell's the one that you would rather be avoiding right now. And Celtic are going to find that for themselves this weekend. I think that Motherwell will go to Celtic Park, and that's not going to be 3 points that can be taken for granted, even despite what Celtic have managed to come through over the last, 10 days, a fortnight.
A lot of people in the comments as well. I mean, Sugarman is one saying McCann and Elvis will lay down to Hearts pre the split. But McKenna, Big Jambo says Dundee are no mugs either. Obviously, they're playing.
Wait a minute. Neil McCann has been given a shot to try and prove that he should be given a future in management. And he's working for a club which is threatened by relegation.
Can you imagine him in the dressing room saying, "Lads, I used to play for Hearts, so if we could forfeit the 3 points today, I'd really appreciate it."
That'd be great. That'd be great, boys. If that means that people are sacked and contracts are ripped up, well, at least we've done them a good turn.
McKenna, though, says Dundee are no mugs. Obviously, it's Dundee after that for Hearts.
Agreed.
They're
so much improved under Stephen Presley.
They are doing that.
So all these fixtures, but that all said, if you were looking at it from a Hearts perspective, and you've got these two fixtures coming up against Kilmarnock, who are struggling to avoid relegation, Dundee, who might be much improved but are still bottom six. So you've got 2 games coming up in your last 3 before the split, and it's 2 teams that are both in the bottom 6 and going to be consigned to the bottom 6 for the post-split matches. That's a good position. That's a strong position for Hearts to be in. But it is now a question of how do they handle it. And we know that. But the evidence that's already been amassed this season, and even after Hearts had a difficult afternoon at Ibrox, they've come back, they've got back in the bike, they've continued to post 3 points on the board from the next opportunity. And they don't look like a team who are struggling with the weight of expectation. Certainly they haven't done up until this point. That could change.
Mm-hmm.
But I think they look like a group of players that have got a great sort of spirit and camaraderie and chemistry and a determination not to let this opportunity slip. All sorts of pressures will come on as this title race, moves forward into the final furlong, if you like. And it'll be absolutely incredible to watch it, intriguing to see how people react to it. But yeah, I think first and foremost, the target for Hearts is get in and out of Ayrshire and try and get back across the country with 3 points. And see how everybody else copes with it.
And tonight's Hotline Live is moving into the final furlong as well. But we did mention that I caught up with Chris Sutton.
Puns all over the place.
Exactly. Well done, Keith, picking up on that. I caught up with Chris Sutton earlier on today for the Record Celtic podcast. Your Your loyal Muppet in the comments says it was good to hear Sutton saying Celtic fans shouldn't run on the pitch. Now, look, I did talk to Chris about the nonsense at the weekend. I'll be perfectly blunt. I don't think he was that keen to talk about it. He was saying when he came on, it's not been talked to death. But it's out there. If you want to go and listen to the Record Celtic podcast, get his take, it's there. We concentrated on football, Keith, in this little clip, believe it or not. And some of his comments, quite irated.
I'll never catch on.
I know, that'll never catch on, but his comments about Danny Rohl I found particularly interesting. Let's have a listen.
You're saying, Chris, that we've been quite negative about transfers in the team and all that stuff, and it's understandable. But these last 4 away games, Stuttgart, Rangers twice, Aberdeen, 3 wins and a draw by whatever means necessary. What does it say about the group in terms of sheer determination, desire, bottle, cojones, whatever you want to call it, stones, whatever you want to call it? What does it say about them, and can this be maintained to get them over the line?
Well, it can.
Yes.
It can, as Mick McCarthy famously said. I've got a feeling, and I wrote this in the column on Saturday. Performances, you can't keep getting away with it, and Celtic are obviously playing the best teams in the league after the split, and they've got some tough games coming up now. Motherwell at the weekend. Anything's possible against Motherwell. It wouldn't surprise me if Motherwell went to Celtic Park and won the game. It just wouldn't. That isn't me being negative from a Celtic perspective. Motherwell are capable. Celtic performance-wise haven't been there. Martin's press conferences since he's been manager, after virtually every game, you could copy and paste them. You really could. Talks about, well, we won. It's all about winning, and he's right. And this is the beauty of Martin O'Neill, really, as a manager, getting every last ounce out of the players. And I think he's done that to go to Ibrox twice in a week, to come from 2 down, to salvage that, and had the game gone on for another 5 minutes, I think we'd all agree Celtic would have probably gone on to win the game. And then to knock Rangers out of the cup. And Rangers have been big spenders this season. Essentially, they are 2 massive results, and what it has done in the league is kept Celtic hanging on in there. I still think they've got all to do to win the league, and that's why I think it's not sustainable. What has gone on. That's in my view. Performances have to be better. I mean, if the performances are there, the points do come. The points have been coming, and Celtic have been winning ugly, and that's a brilliant thing to do as a player. But eventually, when you're in a title run and you're facing all your rivals, eventually it has to sort of click into gear, and the team have to play well, which they haven't. It hasn't been pretty all season. Finding a way is what it's about. But I think all teams will drop points, and I think I've made that clear for a while now. I think Rangers will drop points. I think Hearts will drop points. I think it could be the best ever season after the split, in terms of anything is possible after the split.
A 3-way helicopter Sunday, that would certainly be something to...
Could be 4-way.
4-way.
And you're a bit negative from you there.
Actually, before we wrap up, guys, this is a question to both of you. If you were Martin O'Neill, who would be your central striker? Is Maeda the only sort of viable choice now?
Said at the start, Sutty, still got the boots again.
Yeah. I mean, Martin doesn't know. I mean, that's an impossible question. I mean, if Martin's chopping and changing every game, which he is doing, and he can't nail one down, it's a massive problem for Celtic. So, as Mick put really well, Celtic, if they end up, it'd be remarkable, Hearts winning the league. If Celtic end up winning the league this season without a striker, that would be pretty remarkable in itself.
Certainly would. Mick, who would you go with?
Do you know what? I think Dyson Maeda is probably the one that I think you have to hope that this 13-game spell is kind of coming to an end at some point, and he catches fire. And it happened last season when everything he touched turned to goal. I think they have to kind of keep plugging away and hope that he gets the one in the back of the net and it sparks like a late rally, because somebody's going to need to score 5 or 6 goals from that position to get.
Is it not a bit horses for courses as well? Why did Dyson Maida play centre forward against Rangers? Because he puts the fear of God into their centre halves with that pace in behind. It was interesting. Danny Rohl's team selection, wasn't it? Giga and Fernandez. Giga probably a bit quicker than Suter. And Celtic will go into games where, I suppose now that they'll feel they can play more counter-attack, and that suits Days and Maida, of course it does. But then when Celtic go into games, and you think of the games that coming up and dominating the ball, where you would think maybe the two games against the Dundee clubs, Dundee United and Dundee, you would think there that he may need somebody who has a bit more savvy with the back to goal, where Adamu comes into play and Siobhan Shah, maybe hasn't shown enough, but neither's Adamu as well. So it's an nightmare. Maybe the lesser spotted Iheanacho will come back and have a stormer and Celtic win the league, and we all say what a great bit of business from Celtic if that happens.
See, it's going to be. I think Chris is right. I think there's going to be points getting spilled left, right, and centre by all of them. We don't know how Hearts are going to cope with the finishing line in sight. They're in pole position. I think they might do it. But they've still got to see how they react under severe pressure of getting the finishing line in sight. In terms of Rangers, though, it's going to be interesting to see how they respond to two major setbacks. I mean, they've had 4 draws and 6 in the league. Back to back blows again. I mean, obviously didn't lose Celtic in the league, but losing a 2-goal lead to chuck away 2 points was huge in the context of the league. Going out the cup in that way was huge. How are they going to respond to these setbacks? And Danny Rohl's getting a bit prickly when he gets asked about things like bottle and character, and he's going to have to answer these questions because until Rangers are starting with a trophy, they're going to hang over them. But it's going to be interesting to see how they respond. I thought maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, I thought Rangers were the ones to watch in terms of the title race. I thought January looked as though they'd tooled up, spent a few quid, brought in some experienced players that have done it at a decent level, but they've not really kept on. They haven't, and then they've had now these 2 big slip-ups. So how are they going to respond? It's really interesting because now there's big questions getting asked of them. Danny Rohl's getting a bit of pressure applied to him now as well. And the people are saying that he's got to win the league or he's toast, which I think is a bit harsh.
That's rubbish, isn't it? I mean, Danny Rohl's issue is he became a little bit. He got a bit above his station, I think. It became a little bit too cocky with this, the stuff. You could see what Martin O'Neill thought of the comments about how Celtic should have played against Stuttgart, and they wouldn't have gone down well with Martin, who kept his own counsel. I just think maybe Danny Rohl started to believe his own hype a little bit. I don't know why he got involved in the Luke McCowan situation. And if you're a Rangers fan, you'd think, well, I don't know. You think, well, you haven't won anything yet, Danny. Don't worry about what's going on at Celtic and who Martin should be playing and what the goalkeeping situation should be at Celtic. Concern yourself with your own team. Let's get it right. Danny Rohl talking about Martin O'Neill in Europe and how Celtic should have played. Danny Rohl's record in Europe was rotten. However he's done domestically, his record was rotten. So I don't think that would have gone down well with the Rangers' support. Those 2 games at Ibrox, I thought Danny Rohl was thinking, here we go. I fancy this, and let in fairness, the first half display in the league game, and then in the cup they had the better of the game, but they didn't see it through. And I've said it many times, Glasgow. It's all about who comes out on top. It's all about winning, and I just think maybe sort of Danny's ego, has been checked a little bit with what's happened, and now he I would hope from his point of view, he realises now it's better to do your talking on the pitch and after you've won something rather than spout off early, which he has done. And that's come back to sort of bite him a little bit. But Rangers can still win the league. But, I really do believe that. But I think it's going to be fascinating. If I'm the same as Mick. I think Hearts, because of that 6-point gap, there's less margin for error, but there'll be a twist and a turn. But I don't see any. I see all teams dropping a fair few points, which is why I think Hearts will win it.
Keith, Perry in the comments says, I would have thought Rowe would have tried to win that game on Sunday. Is Chris right in the sense that the Rangers manager has left himself open for comments like that with the stuff he said?
No, Chris is a wind-up person, isn't he? We all know that.
We know that.
But was it a bit of an experience? Yes, I do think that, and I thought that at the time, and I said it at the time. And I think there have been worrying signs for Rangers that it's kind of what we predicted when, why I said I was surprised at the appointment in the first place. And I say that now with the benefit of hindsight, and I'm able to say Danny Rohl's done a very good job. He's done a fine job in terms of making Rangers more competitive than the Rangers side that he inherited. No question about it. My concern for Danny Rohl was always going to be, you're 36, you've only done a season and a half as a manager, both of which were at Sheffield Wednesday in the second tier English football. The biggest achievement he's had as a manager was a 12th place finish in the Championship in England. How does that prepare you for this? I'm not sure that it does. And I know that he was number 2 at Hansi Flick, and he's been in big, around big clubs and big players. I still think you don't know how to handle this. You can't know how to handle this until you've actually been here, lived it a little bit.
Yeah.
Or had similar responsibilities somewhere else. Not that I feel there is any place that's too similar to Glasgow in this environment. I felt that might be an issue for Danny Rohl. I think there have been signs over the last few weeks when push has really come to shove that he's been a bit erratic in some of his decision making, whether that be team selection, substitutions, what he's spoken about in press conferences. And I think these are all things that you mark up at the end of the season and you think, right, okay, you need to learn from that. And Danny Rohl, because he's so young as a manager and inexperienced in these terms, he will learn as he's going along. He's still not out of this league race. Rangers still not out of this league race. And anybody that thinks they are, they're going a little bit early. I do think it becomes very difficult, and I've said to you, Daniel, I think these recent couple of games against Celtic will be a real gut punch, and I find it difficult to imagine how Rangers can just slip back into some sort of stride. They have lost too many points over the last few weeks. I think it becomes really difficult for them. And you look in the other corner of the city, and you've got a guy in Martin O'Neill, 74, been there, seen it, worn the T-shirt. He knows exactly what's required over this final stretch. And even if you go all the way through to Tynecastle, you've got a guy in Derek McInnes that's been the course and distance. All right, he doesn't have Martin O'Neill's managerial CV in terms of trophies won, but he knows what this league's all about, and he knows what's required. And it's almost as if he's done a long time getting himself to be in this position. But I do think anyway that the experience he's picked up along the way will help him cope with it. And I think you've seen that in the way that he's rallied hearts, he's sent out good messaging, he's got his team where he wants them to be. They've not been shown any signs up until this point of cracking under the strain of it all. And I think that is reflected, that's a reflection of a manager who pretty much might have been made for this very moment. His whole career might have been an audition for this very moment. So, look, nobody can say with any sort of certainty how it plays out from here. Rangers could come storming back into this. Celtic might just set off on a run. Hearts might continue to do what Hearts have been continuing to do all season. Motherwell could come from nowhere. Motherwell could go to Celtic Park at the weekend and get a result that turns the tables and throws in a whole new plot twist to the storyline. Anything's possible. It's now just a matter of watching it unfold before your very eyes and studying who's dealing with it in the best manner. And that's going to be the critical point as this campaign comes to a climax.
One very quick visit to the comments, Keith, before we finish, because there's so many coming in. It would be a disservice to the guys not to throw them to you, if that's okay. Jay says, if you can't beat Celtic reserves at home, I don't think you have much of a chance. McKenna says, McInnes is getting advice from Fergie, don't forget. But Marzuno says, Dell's only an expert at finishing second and not winning any cups. Chick says, you were doing so well tonight, Keith, but Rangers have no chance. DD says, I really hope Rangers keep Rohl. Doesn't worry me one bit. I don't want them stealing Askew from under our noses. SMP Goon Platoon says, Keith, watch Rangers win. Barron comes back. Different team through the middle. And Chick,
I wonder.
again,
I mean, I appreciate that, and I think Connor Barnes had an excellent season, or was having an excellent season, and playing his best football. And I think he was a major. And we all said it when he went out injured. That's a major blow for Rangers because of the scale of the contribution that the wee fella was putting in the middle of the pitch.
Yeah.
But at what point, if Rangers had started this season, would any Rangers fan ever have thought they'd be in a position where they say, "Oh, well, Connor Barron coming back is going to make all the difference"?
Could win as the link guy.
Yeah, I mean, he's a right good operator in the middle of the pitch. Don't get me wrong.
I can play
but I'm struggling to think. Has he got a single Rangers goal under his belt? I'm not sure that he has. Maybe one.
One, maybe. I think.
And that's where Rangers are. That's where the problems are for Rangers. The creativity in the final third, and they don't have a reliable goal scorer. That I think will be a big issue. Same as Celtic. Celtic, as the guys are saying there, they don't have a striker. The Martin O'Neill's having to cobble this thing together without a recognised, reliable number 9.
Aye.
And again, you flip that all round, and Derek McInnes is just about to bring back Lawrence Shankland, and he's got Claudio Braga.
What very last thing, Keith? Luke in the comments says Rohl will get another season at least. Then our American owners will act. If Danny Rohl finishes third or even lower in this table, which is not inconceivable, they're third at the minute, and if they don't obviously win a trophy, will he still get next season's Rangers boss, do you think?
He'll get the start of next season.
Right. Okay.
I think.
I probably agree with that.
I think that Andrew Kavanagh is relatively impressed with the work that's been done, and I think rightly so, because Rangers are a far stronger outfit than they were when Danny Rohl took over from Russell Martin. Is it enough to win the title? The next few weeks will let us know that. I have my doubts. But even if Rangers fall short, I think that Andrew Kavanagh has been impressed enough by Danny Rohl to think, he deserves another transfer window, and he deserves a cracker at the start of next season. The problem that Danny Rohl, that Andrew Kavanagh, that anybody's best intentions might be concerned, the problem that you're going to have is there will be no room for error come the start of next season if that's the way this season ends. That Danny Rohl will be under real scrutiny from the start of the season, and he'll have to really come out flying at the start of that season in order to win the majority back round, because right now Rangers fans are starting to get a little bit agitated and a little bit impatient, and not without reason, given the way their side has really failed to grasp the scale of the opportunity which presented itself over 2 separate weekends and on their own pitch.
Yeah. The very last comment, Keith, I need to read out. It comes from Givaldo, who says, Hibs would rather take a relegation than have Hearts win a championship. So there you go. I don't know how true that is, but I'd be more inclined to agree with Givaldo than Hibs fans are all wearing maroon jerseys hoping Hearts do it.
I don't think anybody's saying that. But and I agree that the sort of more militant wing of the Hibs support, it's the worst possible case scenario would be Hearts winning it. But I do have a bit of sympathy for what Ryan Stevenson was saying there. I do think that whatever goodwill there might have been for Celtic and Rangers, for the old firm in general, a lot of it would have disappeared over that weekend. And I think a lot of people might be reaching the conclusion, do you know something? What a great sort of refreshing shot in the arm it would be for the game in this country if Hearts did end up putting them both, tucking them both away between now and the end of the season.
Absolutely.
And I couldn't disagree with it, to be perfectly
honest. No, me
honest.
neither, to be fair. I think that brings us to the end of Tuesday night's Hotline Live, brought to you by NordVPN. Massively appreciate all the comments as ever. Thank you so much. We'll be back to do it all again at 6 p.m. tomorrow. Keith, hopefully we can just concentrate on football. Who knows?
I think so. Yeah, let's move it forward now and look forward to the weekend.
Absolutely. Fingers crossed. Keith, it's always a pleasure.
Thanks, Daniel. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks for watching at home, and hope you can join us tomorrow. Cheers.